All right, hello, welcome back, everybody. PayPal and Patreon are down below if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. So, the USGS has released the mineral commodity summaries for 2025. Thusly, it is time to update the graphs and go through the current supply levels and trends. If you want after this, you can see a separate trio of videos going over what each particular one is used for in depth throughout its different uses. But for now, going down the current supply levels from mines of each metal or mineral around the world, starting with gold AU. Gold has been on a supply output plateau since about 2018 when it got close to 3,700 tons or so. This time, for the total output of last year across all mines throughout the world, it came out to just under 3,700 tons, around 3,690 kg or silver, typically measured in million ounces, although often displayed as here in 1,000 tons per year. Silver output from mines across the world peaked in 2015, just shy of 900 million ounces across that year, and got down to around or a bit below 800 a couple of years back. Recovered somewhat over the last few years up to around between 830 and 840, but now has been trending down again, continuing its decline, and is back down to now just under 810 million ounces. Meanwhile, annual demand for silver worldwide each year has been around 1 or 1.1 billion ounces. Copper output from mines worldwide, although starting to get sluggish as of late, and likely to peak in the 2030s. It has nevertheless continued climbing upwards, tending to just manage to match demand, although that has sort of become a deficit over the last few years, especially as copper demand has picked up. And as of this data, over the course of the entirety of 2024, copper output worldwide hit 23 million tons. The platinum group metals, platinum and palladium, and some associated others, a very critical subset in a rather precarious situation, geographically confined to a few specific locales around the world, namely South Africa, Russia, Canada, and the US. Both platinum and palladium have relatively been on, or were relatively on plateaus for the last 20 years. However, overall, it's starting to turn out now that the amount actually coming out of the ground has been in decline long term, with platinum technically having peaked at about 220 tons mined in 2005 and is down to now, last year, only 170 tons coming out of the ground, and palladium having peaked a bit above 200 and not having fallen as much, but still falling down to now only 190 tons. Aluminum, primarily mined and found in the form of bauxite ore, although there are quite a lot of clay formations around the world that also have a decent level of aluminum content as well. So aluminum is never going to really be of any global supply concern, but aluminum mining output, or bauxite ore mined per year, has continued growing and has now reached 450 million tons over the course of last year. Iron ore, rather plentiful everywhere, was once up even at actually about 3.5 billion tons mined per year. However, after the collapse of that construction boom that ran through the 2000s and very early 2010s, still in some places, the demand for fresh iron ore to make steel ended up dropping a decent bit and has remained level at around 2.5 billion tons per year, and thus iron ore output from mines around the world has remained at about 2.5 billion tons per year. Lead output from mines across the world peaked in 2013 at about 5.5 million tons per year and has continued its decline down to having just 4.3 million tons mined worldwide over the course of last year, while its partner zinc has also, at least for the moment, peaked. Zinc output peaked in 2012 at 13 million tons per year and has since declined down to 12 million tons per year. Nickel, a primary critical component of many types of steel, along with batteries, especially the high demand now from EV batteries, as well as one of the obvious key or rather foundational components of nickel superalloys, which are required for power plant turbines and aircraft engines and a lot of rocket parts. Nickel, because of a burst of higher output from Indonesia, has jumped recently up over three and a half towards three and three quarters, and for 2023 was at 3.75. Last year fell down a bit to an output level of 3.7 million tons from chromium, another one of the key ingredients in many types of steels, especially stainless steels, water corrosion resistant steels. That declined a bit a few years back, but has continued going upwards and recovered from that dip and is now up to 47 million tons per year. Manganese, a core component of basically every form of steel, along with a number of key aluminum alloys, is kind of plateauing, which is going to cause obviously some issues and thus price spikes resulting from those issues. It started plateauing at around 2019 or so and has stuck roughly around 20 million tons per year. Molybdenum is another key ingredient to many different types of steels, especially structural steels or load-bearing steels used for buildings and infrastructure, and has fallen down from some higher levels a few years back, currently this time at 260,000 tons per year, and did as a result of that see some price spikes recently over the last year or two, hitting the highest price levels for molybdenum seen since the 2008 financial crisis. Tin, a somewhat overlooked metal, sometimes in common consciousness, critical for electronics, as it's one of the key ingredients for electronic soldering alloys, along with being a core component of ITO, indium tin oxide, which is what allows the existence of flat display screens instead of needing screens that are 2 feet thick and weigh 50 pounds. It's also a key element to the protective plating for sealing long term storage food cans, along with a key component now of solar panels. And tin is one of the elements of many supply concerns, as it has been on a plateau for quite a while at about 300,000 tons mined per year, and a number of times has gotten quite low in the bare excess supply inventories available to plug the gaps around the world. Sometimes a few years back, even getting as low as less than 1,000 tons in storage on hand in global total. Vanadium, another critical alloy component for a lot of types of steels and other alloys, usually for metals used in tools and other such things, machinery, stuff that is going to be undergoing a lot of impact, as vanadium gives impact strength resistance. And vanadium has kind of capped off for the last few years, it looks like. Might be having issues with it soon. It hit a high of 110,000 tons per year in 2021 and has since fallen to 100,000. Niobium, a critical component of many high strength steels, along with a lot of rocket parts and space related tech. We have managed to keep niobium mine output going upwards roughly in pace with demand, and it's now up to 110,000 tons per year. Lithium, a metal of relatively low importance up until recently, its output has managed to just chase demand, typically for the most part has fallen just short of it, although now, as a lot of EV subsidies are being curtailed and thus EV sales are going flat or even declining, lithium supply has actually now overshot demand, with lithium output from mines across the world last year coming in at 240,000 tons. Graphite, also a key component of many types of batteries, has seen a recent upsurge over the last number of years because of expanded output from a number of new locales, a lot of them in Africa, such as Tanzania and Mozambique, with graphite output from mines across the world hitting 1.6 million tons per year. Rare earth metals, critical for quite a number of things. You can see all of them in one of those videos I mentioned. But the big one that's driving demand is a mixture of modern electronics technology and various types of renewable energy infrastructure, primarily wind turbines and solar panels, with rare earth output chasing demand upwards and now hitting 390,000 tons per year. Tantalum, a little known but very, very critical metal, has a global output now of only about 2,100 tons per year, and there are issues with getting that higher because the bulk of tantalum deposits worldwide are in the Congo, and not the smaller stable of the two, but the bigger unstable one. Boron, primarily critical for the existence of fiber optic glass, which allows us to have fiber optic cables, which allow the existence of the internet and instantaneous communication. Boron is not of an immediate supply concern. It actually shot up into oversupply for a couple of years recently because Turkey was outputting too much. It is, as of current, following demand levels though, and is at 4.5 million tons per year. Tungsten, another metal that is critical for a lot of high strength alloys, especially those used in abrasion, such as the drill bits for oil and gas and other forms of drilling. Tungsten output has actually fallen a bit since 2014 and has come in at 81,000 tons. Beryllium, a very not abundant metal that is critical for quite a number of things, such as aviation, rockets and space tech, the functioning of satellites, and a lot of components of modern electronics. Beryllium, after being in a supply slump, has now climbed over recent times back up to 360 tons per year, with the bulk of supply being from the US, as about 80% of the beryllium in the world is primarily located in the state of Utah. Cobalt, another metal that is critical for the nickel superalloys, and is also used quite a bit in many types of batteries, especially now the big demand boom coming from EV batteries and grid storage batteries. Cobalt output lagged behind the demand upsurge for a few years, but has now been chasing it pretty closely and is up to 290,000 tons per year. Gallium, among the category of rare earths and accompanying strategic metals, is critical for the existence of both modern electronics, solar panels, and LED lights, as basically every different type of diode used in LEDs is a combination of gallium with some other metal, gallium arsenide, gallium antimony, gallium indium, gallium tin. Indium, also critical for the existence of modern electronics, since it's one of the key components of indium tin oxide, which allows the existence of flat screens, and also indium both in specific layers and the form of ITO is also used in solar panels. Germanium, a very, very rare metal, seen an output level most recently of only 139 tons per year, is one of the ones that takes part in allowing the existence of the internet and modern instantaneous communication, as as the inside of fiber optic cables are coated with a reflective layer of germanium, germanium being the only one that allows the laser pulses to reflect at the exact perfect angles that let them actually travel the entire distance without dissipating. Fluorspar generally fluctuating, falling or climbing with global demand, with fluorspar's primary end use after it gets chemically adjusted a bit being a required component in the refining of aluminum. Fluorspar output from mines worldwide has reached 9.5 million tons. Soda ash has jumped up to about 24 million tons in terms of global mining output. Soda ash being a chemical starting block or chemical intermediary in the manufacturing of so many different things, and also directly used about half of its use formation of our modern glass that is, actually completely transparent and flat, and demand for soda ash has not jumped up that suddenly, just the output has from mines, as mining soda ash is cheaper than chemically making it because you can chemically make it artificially as long as you have a source of sodium and a source of carbon. Phosphate rock, one of the one of the core fertilizer providers that allow us to grow so many crops so quickly and thus feed a modern population of 8 plus billion. Phosphate rock is recovering after having peaked close to 270 million tons in 2017 and has recovered back up to a global output of 240. Potash or potash, another one of the key fertilizers, this one being the potassium provider, has recovered from its brief dip as well that was caused by the start of the Ukraine war, disrupting supplies from Russia and Belarus. However, Canada predominantly, along with Germany and China, have made up for those gaps, and the global output levels over 2024 were 48 million tons, and usually included, although not technically mined because it's a gas and not a mineral, helium, a critical component for quite a lot of things. The manufacturing of modern electronics, the manufacturing of the silicon wafers, the computer processors, because they have to be made in a room filled with helium, since helium's the only one that really doesn't react with anything, and it also purges everything else in its path, leaving nothing else there that could react with anything. Helium supply, primarily extracted alongside natural gas, although also from actual helium reservoirs occurring within porous layers of rock deep within the Earth. After being flat at around 150 or 160 for quite a while, has actually gotten a boost upwards a little bit recently, up to 180 million cubic meters per year. And that's all the ones from the primary list that will be included in this video. Thank you everybody for sticking around and listening. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. PayPal and Patreon are down there if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. There's a link in the description to a Google Drive folder where you can find these graphs and all kinds of other graphs across all kinds of different topics and subjects. I try to keep those updated as quickly and as best as I can. That's all free to access, free to use. There's a link below that to my photography Instagram, a link to each of the 3 what is each metal used for videos I mentioned under those, one in the top pinned comment to my cat's YouTube channel, and may God bless and protect all of you, and I will see you all around next time.